And we are live. Welcome to another episode of Business Focus Live with me, John, where we talk about business related topics as well as news from here and around the world. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe. Let's get started. And we're back. Thank you again for joining me today. So, these are the topics that happened, this past week. So, we'll be talking about, the issue that if you're an Apple user, if you recently bought the latest iPad Pro, there's this they're calling blooming issue where there's ghosting in your screen, especially if it's in dark contrast. So, we'll talk about that. Later on, we'll talk also about Xiaomi's, new technology in terms of being able to charge your phone within 8 minutes, right? So how are they able to do that? That's looking even promising. Next, we'll be talking about the latest update with regards the Nintendo Switch Pro that's coming really soon, latter part of this year. And next is that ordering online can now travel much farther than it used to. So we'll talk about that as well. Uh, yeah, here's something interesting. If you're looking to buy a new house, especially in Japan, they're trying to get people to buy those houses at a very affordable rate for as low as $500. What's that all about? Anyway, and lastly, we'll talk about obviously, with the pandemic, vaccine is so critical for ensuring, creating a herd mentality, herd immunity to ensure that majority of the population is vaccinated to combat with the current pandemic. And here in the Philippines, one of the key players or personality, Mr. MVP, is trying to create a vaccine production locally rather than source it outside. So let's start off. So anyway, so with regards to the Apple product which recently launched with regards to the iPad Pro, they're always releasing new product with the new iPhone last year, then the AirTags recently, and then the iPad Pro. Now, obviously, releasing a new product should be bring excitement to many users, especially if you're in the Apple ecosystem. But in this case, there was an issue that cropped up recently regarding, as I mentioned, a blooming issue regarding in the screen, especially if it's black, the screen uh, contrasting with the white, you'll see a halo or a glow or ghosting that they call it on their devices here. Now, what led to that? Obviously buying, several hundreds of dollars an expensive item wherein there are some kinks in the product, something, you know, especially if you're using it for whether work or leisure, this is should this be a big concern? Should you hesitate buying the iPad Pro here? Anyway, so according to the article here at phonearena.com, they mentioned that the LED display, which is what the technology that they're using for the device, there's a global dimming that they're calling it. So when the display gets brighter or darker, either way, the entire picture is affected. That's I think where the ghosting image is cropping up here. So in particular, the edge slit, right? So the edges of the devices, you can see more dimming zones. So to light it properly, located at the edges as mentioned. But obviously, LED's technology is nowhere at par with OLED, which is what LG has been producing, for several years. And according to the article, they mentions that they're calling it, or Apple is using the FALD, Fold LED display, or Full Array Local Dimming Display. So obviously trying to improve on its technology from its previous iteration when they're putting in thousands of mini LEDs on the entire screen. Now obviously there are limitations as to what an LED can do, and this is what it would look like. So let's take a closer look here. So you can see here in the screen, right? On the left side, you can see there are ghosting images beside the artifact on the light, the white part of the screen, and you can compare that to the screen on the right here. And if you were to take a closer look, so you can see here, so the screen on the left side is the latest one, and there are dimming issues all over, especially in very dark contrast situations. Now, will you be using it for color grading or watching videos that has blacks on black? So this will be a big problem. That's something you need to consider. And compare that to this one. As you can see, it's not as bad as this look compared to a few years back. So question is, will this be enough for you to reconsider buying the newer one? Obviously, it only applies to certain conditions. So obviously, if you're not cranking up the brightness at 200%, then you won't see this problem at all. But obviously, meaning the product that they're selling to the market, it's not fully formed or fully fledged, in a sense that there are limitations as to why didn't they just choose to use an OLED screen rather than just using mini LEDs. Now, this is what the effect could be, and they're calling, as mentioned, blooming effect, ghosting effect, or even a halo effect that they're calling it, and even noticeable in especially high contrast situations or scenes here. So you can see it much closer, and obviously for everyday use. So if you're watching movies or games in less demanding scenes or less dynamic scenes, then it won't be an issue at all. But if it entails high contrast or high bright scenarios, then you're in for some awakening. And you can clearly see here, if you look at the logo, you can see that there's a big what do you call this, big glowing effect, so to speak, which shouldn't be present if you're using a OLED screens technology. Actually, you can see here on the screen also the text on top of the black. You can see there's some ghosting effect, so to speak. So question is, what do you do now? So do you continue using the product, or do you hold off until they release a new product that has OLED screen on top of it rather than LED here? Now, obviously, in terms of screen, LG's OLED screen technology is number one in terms of brightness and more, I won't say color accuracy, but especially for if you're into gaming, watching movies, I like brighter screen so that I can better see with my poor vision. So having that high brightness contrast is always a plus, in my perspective anyway. So what do you think? What do you prefer? Do you want? Are you planning to buy the latest one, or are you, thinking twice before holding off? Well, we'll see if Apple is able to fix this issue, or is it going to be, an ongoing dilemma for Apple iPad aficionados here. Next we have here, so I'm always looking forward to improving technology with continually innovating and finding ways to improve their product. And in this case, Xiaomi has in the front of forefront of improving your charging capabilities of your smartphone. And you can just imagine the possibility of being able to incorporate this to any devices that you own, whether smartphones, tablets, or even laptops, which uses a lot of battery and it quickly drains quickly, especially if you're, I own a Dell XPS 15 that has 4K screen, so it does use up a lot of battery quickly. And finding a way to either have bigger battery capacity or having faster charging availability is always the ideal solution for those problems. And Xiaomi has found a way to be able to charge your phone within just 8 minutes. Now take note, 8 minutes is a very short time. So being able to do that would be tremendous. So they're using a charger that has 200-watt capability, so that can charge your phone 0 to 100 in less than 10 minutes. Now, according to the article here, we have arstechnica.com. They mentioned that the what do you call this? That the 200 watt watt charging system. They're calling it the Xiaomi HyperCharge, which is, going to provide full battery charging capability from empty to full in just 8 minutes. And let me show you the how were they able to do that. So as you can see here, so they're using the Xiaomi Mi 11 Pro as an example here. So you can see here, in less than 3 minutes, they're going to charge it up to 50%. So within 3 minutes, right? Then you can see the quick charge. So it will boost its wattage here and it will reach 100% in just 8 minutes. So you could just imagine the excitement, for me or for any users out there that's going to be able to take advantage of this technology, not having to worry whether, do I have to bring my power brick every time, or do I just plug it in my office or at school or at home, then it will quickly charge and then get into full charge very quickly. And I think this is a very important advancement in charging capability. Obviously, one of the things that they mention here is, in terms of charging it, not fully charging it from 0 to 200 watts automatically. So there's a ramped up of speed or wattage when it charges initially, and then by the time it reaches 50 all the way to 75 going to 100, it slows down significantly so that it does not damage the lifespan of your battery, which I think is tremendous here. Imagine that if they're able to incorporate this into your charger for your laptops, you don't have to worry about, bringing a power brick anymore. And later on we'll be talking about the USB Type C, the potentiality of being able to use your phone by charging it by using one device or one cable or power brick and so forth here. Anyway, so going back, so they mentioned here that, being able to charge it quickly is always, the holy grail in terms of using the devices. And how to charge it quickly obviously depends on the battery. The bigger the battery, the longer the lifespan. But obviously it's going to be expensive and it's going to be bulky in your mobile device. So the other way around is to have the charger do the legwork or the grunt work here in terms of being able to wrap it up quickly and, to protect the interest, because we don't want, what happened with, I think which note was it for the Samsung where it caught fire. So we don't want that incident to happen, because people always put their devices, in their person, in their pockets or in their bags. And if we were to caught fire, that's worst case scenario we're not looking forward to. But with this possibility, it brings up a lot of advantages, especially for day-to-day usage. So you just need to charge it quickly. And, it's not just the Xiaomi charger that's being hailed as the future of charging here. We also have another related article according to TheVerge.com where the USB Type C, which we use for a plethora of applications in terms of connecting to multiple devices, screens, or even being able to connect an external GPU. So now you could use your USB Type C to charge your laptops. In this case, like in my case, I have a 130 watt requirement just to be able to charge the laptop. And with the new technology here, I think they're calling it the USB Implementers Forum or USB IF, that the USB cable can handle 240 watts. So meaning it can charge a very significant hungry power laptops here. So from 100, which is not enough for my laptop, going to 240 would make a big difference here. So let's see, where is it? Crap, where the heck is it? There you go. So if you see that the capability is opening up a lot of avenues here, not just for charging your smartphone, but being able to charge your more power hungry laptops can be tremendous. And according to the article, it mentions that for the Dell XPS, which is technically could charge it, but it requires 130 watts. So Either you buy the proprietary charger brick that the company offers, or you buy the barrel plug that they use to charge it, which is, kind of cumbersome if you think about it. If you could just bring one power brick, or in this case one cable, to rule them all. In the case is using the USB Type C, which is, becoming a standard for future uses for many of our technology, could be tremendous here. And it has a lot of benefits. And in this case, it mentions that it's going to offer extended power range, calling it the EPR for short. So meaning all cables would have this designation, so it would be different from a standard. I don't know if I have a cable here. Yeah, normally a USB Type C cable would just look like any other cable, with the end having, uh, you can plug it in any side. So obviously, to differentiate it and being able to support 5 amps of charging all the way to 50 volts is possible with EPR cables here, which is, you know can't wait to have it. Question is how much it's going to cost us if that were the case here. And obviously, more and more devices are now demanding more power, so it makes sense for many manufacturers to come up with a bigger, better way to transfer power delivery to our charger as well as the cable, so that it can enable or power up our devices here, whether smartphones or even laptops here. I'm just wondering how far before Samsung and Apple is able to adopt this technology, or is it just other third-party companies going to develop this? Because obviously it's going to be bad for companies if you can use your phones much longer, since you are able to charge it quickly and so forth, without having to consider even worry or buy new phones every so often. So maybe that's one reason why Samsung or even Apple is slow rolling in terms of providing better technology, better convenience for many consumers. But that's just only, speculations. Anyway, so speaking of games, here we have Nintendo's. There have been several rumors since last year. Actually, I've been holding off in terms of actual reports of when is there going to be an actual release of the latest update of their original Nintendo Switch. They're calling it the Nintendo Switch Pro, which is going to offer OLED screen, which is, would be tremendous to provide you better gameplay here. But obviously, for me, I own a Nintendo Switch. My sole purpose for using it's not for when it's docked, so you can play it in 4K. But for me, it's more for the portability, and it's multifunction of being able to change your controllers, so you can play it dock or play it putting on the stand, or whatever form that you prefer. Now, obviously, with better features, the price here they mention is, there were mentions that it's going to cost more than the original Nintendo Switch. Now, will it cost at the same level as a regular console, say like a Sony PlayStation 5 or even a Microsoft Xbox Series X? Now, hopefully they won't get to that range, because their device is totally different from what the other companies are offering. Because it's a two-in-one device, so to speak. So if they try to price it too expensive, maybe this would turn off consumers. But if you're in Nintendo platform, you tend to pay a premium for the products that they are offering here. And obviously, coming at a price, the existing Switch right now costs around $300. So that's around 15,000. I think I bought it around 16 or 17K, right? So around that price range. And if they're going to increase it, will it be in the north of $500, $600? That would, be considered too expensive, and would be at the same level as a regular console. And that would, sway consumers whether to buy a Switch or versus wanna just buy a home console like a PS5 or even an Xbox and so forth. But you know still have to wait for its actual release later this year. They mentioned they're going to release it sometime later in September or October. That's the report here. So for me, what I'm looking for is, to remove to make it bezel-less, because in the current iteration that they have, whether it's the Lite or the original Switch, there's a big bezel on the edges, right? So it would make sense to maximize the full footprint while using the same devices here. And I think they could improve in terms of the grip control, because the original one, for its benefit in terms of its motion control and its flexibility of its being, having a small footprint, but over time it gets tiring and it hurts my fingers and my arms. So I think I bought a replacement, a Hori controller, which is much wider, much thicker. So I was able to play it much longer and enjoy it for long durations. But obviously, the problem with the Hori controller, it doesn't have six-axis control. So especially in Zelda, you have to move the screen or the stage. So you can't use it. So you have to use a wireless controller, a different controller at that, to be able to do that. Hopefully, Nintendo will be able to make some key improvements, not just the internal specs of better GPU or better graphics, or better screen, making sure the battery capacity, that again. So we're talking about charging capability. I think being able to charge your device quickly in the shortest manner, so you can use it more, enjoy it more, so to speak. I think it would be tremendous, for many devices that we own here today. Anyway, next we have here is, food delivery service. So companies like Grab, Uber, and so forth, that provides food delivery services to our household, has been tremendous, especially during the pandemic, right? People are apprehensive going out. Behaviors have changed over the course of a few months to a year. So obviously there are limitations as to how far the food delivery service can go in order to deliver. Now, actually, I think I tried to order yesterday from Wendy's, and I tried. Obviously, I used Wendy's hotline at the time, but they mentioned, if it's farther than within their vicinity, they tend to charge more. So I don't know, will there be an increase in charge as well for companies like Food Panda or even Grab Food Philippines, if they're going to be able to reach farther restaurants, so that more customers have more choices to, you know uh, to to decide what type of food they want to order. And obviously for Food Panda, they're calling it the extra mile. Sorry, they're calling it the extra mile deliveries service. So obviously the purpose here is to give more reach in terms of delivery radius, for as much as from 3 kilometers to 8 kilometers. Now my question is, how much more cost is this going to cost the consumers here? That's why, if it's minimal additional fee, I'm okay with that. But if it's going to cost double the amount or triple the amount, then I don't see if it's going to be a long-term solution for any parties involved, whether the consumer or even the food delivery service here. Now, according to the company here, Food Panda, they mentioned that this means that you don't have to miss out on your favorite food items and more, because with Food Panda, they are now within your reach. Now, I'm all good and dandy for the more reach, but obviously pricing is always the key here, unless you provide them discounts or offer them substantial packages that would convince consumer to purchase, even though it's much farther, right? Now, obviously, if it's just a few kilometers here and there, then there's no big issue there. So we'll see how it pans out, especially would consumers still order at a higher rate or not. Now, on the other hand, on the flip side, you have Grab Philippines launching the long distance feature by offering the same options to its core customers here. Now, I'm all for it, whether company has their own delivery service or food delivery service like Food Panda and GrabFood. As long as they provide a key service to help our citizens here, who don't have the time when they're busy at work, or to or still apprehensive of going out your household or homes to simply pick up an item, why not get it delivered to your household? Much more convenient. I think many would agree also. Anyway, for some local news now, we were talking about, with the vaccine that's being, implemented worldwide, more and more people are getting vaccinated, but obviously it's the law of supply and demand. There are more people that needs vaccinated, but not enough vaccines to get vaccinated. So question here is, what can a person do here? Well, a big person, I mean, a big personality in our country, MVP or Mr. Manny V. Pangilinan, according to philstar.com, is his company is trying to find ways to produce vaccines locally here in the Philippines. Now, obviously, this would be tremendous because, you have how many people in the country? Oh, 100 million people, and to have that herd immunity to take effect, we need majority of, not just 50, 60, 70, or even higher as much as possible, so that everybody is protected. And you know not and then you have to worry if there's a different variant, you need a different vaccine for that one, or is your vaccine currently that you have is necessary. And take note, you have to take two vaccines, two dose not two vaccines, two doses of the vaccine to be able to say that you are protected, right? Having one is not enough, so you can just imagine, number of people times two, you need 200 doses, 200 million doses to be able to supplement the entire population here. And obviously, for a company like Mr. MVP here, there's money to be made as well. Killing two birds with one stone, helping your countrymen here, but and also making a big, making money out of it also would be tremendous, because if no other local companies here are able to supplement that, then good for them. And obviously, there will be hurdles that would be posted left and right in terms of, will the government allow that? Will it be recognized? Will they endorse it? And, all of those politicking stuff that comes along with it. Anyway, so according to the article, so they mentioned that Mr. Manny V wants to take a shot at vaccine production here in the Philippines by partnering with global vaccine giants. So whether it's Moderna, Pfizer, or any of those companies, and I think bringing it to our shores for production would be tremendous. Or do we have the facility, the capability, and even the resources to do that? Not just in the short run, but also long run, because it would be beneficial for us if we were to, be involved in another pandemic sometime in the future here. And according to Mr. Manny V. Pangilinan, he also mentions that the group is interested in the local manufacture of vaccines and booster that will follow. So it's not just the vaccine that they're interested in, but also the booster that comes with it. So it improves your immunity, so to speak. So hopefully, they can find a way to be able to do that. If not them or another company, doesn't matter, as long as everyone in the country is vaccinated. You know, they mentioned that they're still in the early stages of the plan, so there's no guaranteed partnership yet. So they're being hopeful about it, and obviously their goal here is not just to cover vaccines and boosters against COVID-19. So they're also looking at other viruses that can cause influenza, chickenpox, as well as polio, amongst others. So meaning they're looking at this long term, so that obviously, the pharmaceutical industry is a very big industry, and people need a lot of medicine to stay alive, and what even more so for vaccines against deadly diseases that we have here. And the MVP group already mentioned that it placed orders for some of the big companies. You have Moderna and AstraZeneca for vaccines, wherein they've already tried to vaccine most of their employees and as well as their dependents. Now they also plan to provide vaccines to other third-party suppliers, so any excess that they have. They also mentioned that the company, the hotels that they own, the Metro Pacific Hospital Holdings, or MPHHI, are already vaccinated as frontliners. Obviously, you need to protect the people at the frontliners. Now, what's interesting here is that 80% of their hospital workers are already vaccinated. So the number's only 20,500 out of the 25,700 employees that they have. So that's a high 80% rate. But, compare that to the rest of the country, which, still 20,000's not going to get us anywhere. So we need a lot more doses, whether we source it from outside of the country or we produce it locally. Hopefully the government can promote this, look for companies who's going to bat for our country and be able to, if they're going to make revenue out of it, why not, might as well help our countrymen here. Anyway, for our final story here, here's something interesting now. With the pandemic that's going on, people are moving from one location to another, and typically, people in the province tends to move to the city because it's more populated and there's more opportunity for jobs for many people, especially for young adults. Now, in Japan, they're having a big problem in terms of having empty houses. As much as 8 million houses are empty. No one's occupying them in rural Japan. So local government are trying to find ways to lure them back, and they're offering as low as $500 to for them to come back. But I know that's going to be a long-term solution because it goes way deep in terms of why are people moving away, and where are those people going, and in terms of their population, it's an aging population. So meaning, as more people age, there's no young group of or new set of people replacing them, then there'll be lesser people in their country. And according to the insider.com, they mentioned, what was it? Yeah, they mentioned that millions of vacant house in the country are being given away for practically for free. Now they're calling this Akia, or unoccupied homes. So the Japanese government is stating that they're trying to entice would-be homeowners with financial incentives like free properties and sizable renovation subsidies, right? But the problem is that they don't have enough people there to begin with. The fact that the majority of their population is considered old, fewer younger generations who take up the mantle. So not having a family, having kids, it's not their priority. So you do the math. Eventually, you will run out of people in, say a decade or 5 decades from now. And I'm assuming, based on the statistics here, that their population is already going down over the years, and they're trying to convince their local citizens to procreate, get married, have more kids, and so forth. But does not seem to work here. Anyway, so according to the Japan Housing and Land Survey, which conducts the study every 5 years, they mentioned that they have a record high of as much as 8 million point 49 houses, or Akia, way back in 2018. So meaning, having this dilemma is, it's not a small issue. It's a very big problem that they need to tackle head on. And some have suggested that maybe they need to open up their immigration in terms of accepting more migrants to carry the burden. And typically for any nations that needs more people, immigration is always the best solution, since you have the infrastructure, the government policy that's enticing to many people abroad. Then inviting them in would be tremendous. But obviously, Japan is a very homogeneous country, so they tend to prefer their own race, rather than, if you can see how big of a percentage is their uh, foreign residents living in Japan here. And according to the reports, let's see here. Yeah, the report mentions that 13%, or almost 14%, of Japan's 62.4 million houses are unoccupied. So that's a staggering amount of unoccupied houses. And question is, you need to understand what's the root cause here. And there were other locations in particular. You have prefectures in Wakayama, Tokushima, Kagoshima, and Kochi all have recorded home vacancies of more than 18%. So you could just imagine, is it people moving to the city, or there are just fewer and fewer people as the years go by, and asking people to buy extra houses, it's which is, I won't say cheap, but still expensive if you're living in the city. And unless the family grows, then that's the only time that they would buy additional houses for, let's say, a child is living in the province. And one of the main problems as well is enticing young people to stay in the rural areas. Obviously, it's not as exciting as living in the city, in Tokyo or even in Osaka here. Actually, the town of Okutama in western Tokyo is already having this burden of overaging and vacant buildings, and trying to give it away for free. So you could just imagine the urgency here. But obviously, if you don't have the infrastructure, if people are leaving, so fewer and fewer people would be incentivized to come back and live in those houses. And if it continues with this trend, and it's only going to get worse. So no amount of cash offering here is going to draw any people from one location just moving it from one place. You need additional influx of people, whether through increased birth rate or through immigrations here. All right. So question here is it only an isolated issue in Japan here? And I think there's also other common issues in other nations as well. You have cities and towns across in the United States offering people thousands of dollars with the same issue here. And there are also mentions in Europe, southern village of Sinkefrondi, where they're selling homes for just $1, $1 euro, €1, not $1, or approximately a little over $1. So to increase the town's population, again, if you want to incentivize people, it's not enough that you offer them money, because if money was the only issue, they would have stayed long enough, long before, and try to stake it out. But obviously, people have different priorities at the present. And you also have another city in Italy called Locana. They mentioned that they offered the same deal, but sweeten it by giving remote workers who have children a cash incentive of €9,000 just to move in and fill its deserted homes. And obviously, deserted homes does not connote excitement of having your own houses, but you know, it's a big issue. And how the government tries to address it, has a long-term strategy involved. And you know offering money, to technically bribing your citizens, will not be enough. And as many nations will see, whether in Canada, where immigration is still they're inviting a lot of immigrants to move there, even the United States, and even in parts of Australia or even New Zealand, where there's very little to no people living in those countries. So they're trying to invite people to move to their country by offering those services, and those houses will sell like hotcakes if you were able to do that. No need to entice your local citizens to move back, or to move somewhere else where there's no one occupying those houses here. Anyway, that concludes our live stream for today. Thank you for joining me today again, and thanks for watching. So if you have any questions regarding the articles discussed today, I leave the link in the description below so you can check out the full article. For more business news, stay here with Business Focus Live. So I'll see you again next week. Hopefully, I'll go back to the same time schedule. I had a engagement this afternoon, so I have to push back the live stream here. I was already deciding whether to do the live stream tomorrow, but I decided, I could have done it on a later time, so which I did right now. Anyway, for more business news, stay here. So as always, take care. Same time, same channel, next week. Okay, take care and stay safe.